Greetings everyone and welcome back to another episode of Planet Zoo. I am the Beard, and as always it's an absolute pleasure to have you with me. You would have seen that sneak preview of what we're building today, a common ostrich. So stick around for a bit of a time-lapse speed build and some chatter about ostriches in general and why I think they're a rather underrated animal in this game actually. I think the models are actually really cool. I think that they look gorgeous. And they make these really cool noises. They make this noise, and you can get quite a lot of them into a sizable habitat if you so feel inclined. I am also basing this on a building or an idea that comes from a ostrich farm that is local to me. I do live in southern Africa, the part of the world that these birds are native to. It is called the Flight Deck, and it's a little coffee shop where there's above an ostrich ranch where you can kind of see the ostriches playing around. So that's the inspiration for this. I am checking a few images occasionally. If you see the screen pause, it's not broken, it's just me. Right, so yeah, we're building an ostrich habitat. Let's talk about ostriches quickly before I get too involved. So they are actually, as you would probably know, the largest known bird species in the world. And what's really cool is you can easily tell the males and females apart. So obviously the males have the black body feathers with the white feathers on their tails and on their wingtips, where the females have a very dull grey-brown body feathers, if that makes sense. Otherwise they're pretty much the same. I think the males are slightly larger. They'll be slightly larger. I think if you're thinking sort of feet, they're about 7 to 9 feet higher, whereas the females will sort of max out to around 6.5. They're fairly widespread. As I said, they are pretty common where I'm from. If you drive around the farmlands, you'll see them. They are farmed around in the part of the world that I am, as well as living out in the wild. So yeah, you see them quite a lot. They're actually really tasty. In case anyone has not tried it, ostrich steak is delicious. It's very lean, and it's a nice meat, I must say. And you can very ethically farm them because they do not require the same kind of grazing, etc., that cattle does. So yeah, they're a very lucrative, I suppose, livestock animal in this part of the world, and up towards Namibia as well. So yeah, ostriches they're common, and then I believe they're actually quite common worldwide, even though they are from this part of the world, Southern Africa. So yeah, you can see on the screen I'm busy just checking a couple of reference images here. This is the top of the flight deck. We're gonna put a little bit of I think we put some I think it was milkshakes, and I can't remember what the other one was, donuts up there, milkshakes and donuts up at the top. And then on that lower deck there's also going to be some things available to the guests of our park. It took quite a long time actually to get these buildings done, but I really like the way they look in the end. They came out really well. We did some nice foliage work around them too, so yeah, really pleased with how they came together. I hope you're enjoying them sort of putting themselves together there on the screen in front of you all. So let's just carry on talking about these ostriches, because I think this is kind of why I think they are an underrated animal in the game. So as you know, Planet Zoo has some quite sometimes odd restrictions on the number of animals you can have in a habitat. Even if you have sort of build a really large one, you can't fit more animals in by size, I found. So what's nice about the ostriches is that they you can get a good group of about 8 in a single habitat if you want. And for a big bird like that, it's really cool. And that's because I think in the wild they are very social animals. During the breeding season, they kind of hang out together. They'll sort of head off to find the territory of a dominant male who sort of temporarily joins their herd. I think they're called herds rather than flocks. So it's really about dominant males are alone most of the time, but these big flocks of herds of female ostriches seek out these dominant males who have these good bits of territories. And I think during the rest of the time of the year, they live as sort of like largely nomadic, the female birds, and I think the males do too. They kind of move along alongside other grazing animals in the savannah. So you'll often see them with kudu and buck and wildebeest, etc. We are actually going to build a safari type ride area in the Tankwa Park, and we will include some ostrich in there as well. So just as a separate habitat just for the ostrich. Yeah. Right. So as you can see, we're now getting some shade up on the lower sections of the flight deck here. I'm going to be calling it the flight deck. You'll see we do some good old lettering just now and stuff. I originally didn't plan to have two little shops down here, but I originally put in one, but I added a second one and I just thought it kind of rounded it off and gave it a little bit more symmetry. You'll see how that rolls just now. I kind of throw it in there. Right, so we've spoken about the kind of the social life of the ostrich, but the next most important thing to talk about ostrich is the reproduction cycle, because I actually think it's really, really interesting. So I've already mentioned that sort of you get these groups of females, these herds of females that roam around, quite nomadic. The males are too. Around about breeding season, the males will sort of start to find and defend sort of very big, good bits of territory. And the female group will search out one of these males, normally a dominant male. There's sometimes sort of juvenile males as well, but a dominant male. And then what they'll do is they'll choose a male, and they'll stay with this male for the entire breeding season. And then it's weird because the females choose this male, but the males still have to do this really odd mating ritual where they kind of do this odd dance. And they beat their wings, and they sort of peck the ground. It's like this really weird. When you see it in real life, it's kind of fascinating. But once he kind of succeeds, normally just one of the hens, one of the female ostriches, the lead female, as it were, he then gets to mate with all of them, which I think is really, really fascinating. Nice life for that male. He then actually goes about digging a nest where they'll lay their eggs. So what happens is then the ostriches lay in turn, so that the top hen, the sort of lead female, will lay some eggs, around about 7 to 10 eggs, and then the rest of the females in the group will follow her, lay their eggs after her, and then she'll kind of chuck some out. So sometimes 60 legs can be laid, and she'll lay it all in this sort of hole, and then the lead hen will come and choose which are her sort of favorite of those 60, sort of throw them out until there's about 20 left. And those will be the ones that make it. And then a really cool thing is that she incubates them through the day. So just the top hen takes the charge of incubation during the day, and then the male does the incubation at night, which is fascinating. And the reason why they do that is because during the day, because of her colouring, she's got that dusty brown colour to her, she blends into the dusty ground and is very well camouflaged while she's incubating her eggs. And then conversely, at night, the male, with his black feathers, etc., he also blends very well into the dark. So that's probably the reasoning behind their feathering, to be honest, which I think is an absolutely fascinating little evolutionary trait there by the ostrich. So yeah, just as you can see, just before we carry on with the ostrich, we're doing a lot of foliage work here. We've got some lovely flower beds. I really did actually put a lot of effort into this habitat with throwing in as much great foliage as I possibly could, and it really did actually come out really well, I think. I really do enjoy the way it ended up looking, which is great. Right, so let's just carry on quickly, because I do want to carry on talking about these fascinating ostriches. I really do love them. I think they're really great birds. Underrated I say. So after 35 to 40 days, all of those sort of 20 eggs, the male and female have been incubating, they hatch. And then another cool thing is the male ends up looking after those little chicks until they can fend for themselves, which is about 10 months. So that's quite a long time. The male takes charge of looking after them. And then around sort of 18 months, the ostriches are sort of fully grown. And then around, I think, 2.5, 3 years old, they sort of start to get into the reproductive cycle themselves. So yeah, that's the sort of social reproductive cycle of the ostrich. A fascinating bird, I think, and really something that like I said, not many people know much about the ostrich, and because you can get quite a few of them into a habitat in Planet Zoo, you can really get that idea of a herd of ostrich, and you'll see later we get 6, I think, in the beginning into this particular little habitat, 1 male and 5 females. So getting a dominant male with some lovely territory and a herd of female that have wandered past and decided to stay, except this is a zoo and they are fenced in, but nevertheless still pretty cool. I think you can see on screen we're just finishing off some of the exterior foliage and moving on to doing the decorations for the decks, etc. Really looking quite stunning. I really did like how this build came out in the end. Awesome. So before I leave you with some music and let the rest of this sort of speed build play out, let's just talk about some other sort of fun facts about the ostrich. So I've already spoken about their eggs and how sort of the lead female only chooses to incubate sort of the major hen. The lead hen, the top hen, decides to only incubate about 20 of the sort of roughly 60 eggs that might be laid. And those extra eggs then are very good for scrambled eggs. And I have had scrambled ostrich egg before. It is amazing. One scrambled ostrich egg can literally feed 10 people. They are delicious. It's really, really good. And it's another side benefit to farming ostrich is that you can literally get eggs during breeding season, which are you're not taking them away from anyone. They are discarded eggs. So it's not like you're robbing your flock or your herd of anything, which is great, which is really, really cool. I've already mentioned the male ostriches raid the chick when they have, so you know, men doing their part there in this side of the world. And you would think that these birds, when you see them, they're sort of, you know, they look kind of clumsy when they're walking around, but actually they are incredibly fast. I think that they are actually probably the fastest ground bird in the world. Okay, I'm very sure that they are. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I know that they can run sort of around, you know, really quickly. I think they can sort of reach up to at least 55 kilometers an hour. You know, they can, really long distances, top speeds, 20 kilometers an hour easy. Ostriches can run, and they like to run as well, which is really cool. And another reason why I wanted to build such a big habitat here for them. So lastly, last fact about the ostrich, and this is something that I kind of wanted to leave to last because it's one of those huge misconceptions out there, and I don't know where it really started, but apparently some people think that ostriches bury their heads in the sand to hide, and if they think that if they can't see things can't see them, I think it's the whole ostrich with a small head, stupid brain kind of idea, which is just ridiculous, because of course ostriches are not that silly. If that was their defense mechanism, there would be no ostriches left. Predators would just get them. So I've already mentioned the fact that they can run incredibly fast, so you know, running is obviously first defense, and if you think an ostrich is not going to run when it can run as fast as it can, and instead stick its head in the ground, you thinking the wrong kind of thing. I also do know that what they do, and I think this might actually be where the misconception comes from. We've spoken about how the female and the male kind of blend into the sort of the surroundings, and the sort of the foliage when they respectively during the day and night are sitting on them incubating their eggs. Ostriches also do lie flat against the ground, and then they blend in with the horizon and the dust, which I think is another sort of defense method for them. But obviously if they get spotted there, it's leap up and run. Something ostriches are not too shabby at. You'd have to be pretty fast to catch an ostrich. Definitely a cheetah or a lucky lion with some kind of ambush strategy going, which I'm sure happens, but the running is probably defense mechanism number one, so that dispels the whole ostrich sticking their head in the sand thing, which is just, quite frankly, rubbish. Right, so I'm not going to ramble any on more about ostriches. You know why I love them so much. I've been gushing about them for a while. I do think that the Planet Zoo team did a fantastic job with the models. They run around, they act very much like ostriches, and I love the fact that you can get so many of them into one habitat. So I'll let you listen to some cool music, watch out the rest of this build. We've still got some decorations on the top flight deck to be doing, as well as the foliage within the habitat itself, and I will see you all in a bit for a walkthrough in real time of this habitat. Until then, enjoy. Well, welcome back everyone, I hope you enjoyed that speed build. We're parked out here for the walkthrough, just over the top of the Ostrich hard shelter here. Their little sort of shelter here in the corner. I'm looking up at the flight deck. It's going to be a lovely spot for the guests. Look down on this flock of ostrich. There's 6 of them in here now, so yeah, quite a big enclosure. Nice to have it so full. Let's take a look around. So before we take a look at the enclosure, I just want to sort of zoom in on a couple of things that we've done. So in between camera, this is the Now monitor habitat, so people are going to come out of there, if that makes sense. And then what they're going to do is they've got this option to sort of scoot around over here, and what we got is we've got a couple of toilets, which is pretty cool. We need some bathrooms, and then there's a staff room down over there. There's a whole bunch of staff blocks down there. We can actually zoom down and have a look. We have a vet surgery, a trade center, a workshop, research, all that kind of stuff in here. I think there's a staff room as well. There's quarantine, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, people can, the staff will scoop down there. And then obviously there's more toilets, and then here's the entrance to the ostrich habitat, very close for the staff to get through over there. And then we can come down this lovely looking path over here. It really is pretty treed off and lovely, and this marula tree here is looking gorgeous. And then we got our first ostrich viewing point over here. How's it, guys? Coming up to the glass. Nice to see you all. Big flock of 6 of them in here. It's really cool to have them sort of park really close to the window. I think this is really the first chance for everyone to have a very good look at the ostrich, and they're looking fantastic in here. We got some education speakers around here and all the shebang. Then you come around here, here's the back end of that big staff center. You can actually have a look through here into the trade rooms, into the staff rooms, all that kind of stuff. It's quite cool. And then this comes back around. This is our African wild dogs over here, and there's another entrance to that staff center down there, and that goes down to the main drag of the zoo, as it were. What's quite cool is this, that main drag now terminates in this, which is now the ostrich habitat, with a nice big sign there, the flight deck. Yeah, and then we can scoot up the ramp here, some benches. It's a lovely spot over here to sort of park down and have a look at the ostriches in that water hole if you want. It's kind of cool, little flight deck up there, kind of like that. And then it slowly undulates up these stairs. We've got more education over here in case you want to stand here and check out the ostriches. Again, you got a nice bit of view of the watering hole there. It's fantastic. And then up the stairs again, and then we finally have the top of the flight deck, or the first floor of the flight deck. We're going to get these education boards going, and you've got lovely decorations here, some murals, and this is the first little section. This here will also eventually look down at another habitat, which will be over here. Not sure what it's going to be yet, maybe the big safari ride, I think. Also views from out here as well. And then over here we got some balloons in case the kids want some balloons. How's it, guys? Got some balloons there. And then on this side we have a hot dog squad, so grab yourself a hot dog over there. Some benches over here to sit nice and shady, and there'll be more to happen on this deck soon. Right, let's continue to go up the deck, shall we? Up onto the top of the flight deck. More benches. It's lovely out here, sunny, some shade, etc, etc. There you go, the big flight deck. And in here we got some donuts, and I think we got some milkshakes. So yeah, a really good place to grab a cup of tea and all that kind of stuff. Then we got the education boards over here, and then this lovely view from up here on the flight deck down into the ostrich habitat, and it really is fantastic. Little benches there to eat your food and everything, and then a lovely little nice little bespoke viewing pad here to come and have a look down onto the ostriches proper. I think it's really cool. And this is what I was speaking about. That's a lovely little sort of hard shelter that we've got there in the corner. A nice view of them parking off there. I really like the way it looks, kind of industrial, but fits with the vibe of everything. So yeah, really cool. I think the ostriches are loving life. The flight deck looks good. And we are undulating up and down we're starting to make something not so flat, I think. That's what I'm saying. We're going a bit of height difference and stuff. So yeah, nice up here on the hill. And the rest of the park actually looks pretty cool. You can kind of view down and see all kinds of things. So yeah, I suppose let's just park off here and have a look at the ostriches. It was lovely to have you join me. As always, it is an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed this build. I hope you did too. Please let me know in the comments what you think. I think in the next episode or two I've started, but we are gonna start building a bit of a safari ride, And then we're going to start looking at a cat and a monkey specific section of the park. But I think the safari ride will probably come first. It's going to be a big feature. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Until next week, please stay safe, wear a mask, look after yourself. I am the Beard, signing out.